We are interested in business AI problems, so we're not here to talk about things that drive your cars. We're here to talk about things that can drive your business. And we are pretty sophisticated about when it comes to outcomes, how to drive a really good outcome for you. In that context, some of the examples of outcomes, and we're trying to be a little bit cute, that we've already accomplished are in 8 to 9 figures for some critical players. Some have to do in finance with anti-money laundering, if you're familiar with that. But it really is a general use case for what's called an anomaly detection. And one person's anomaly could be another person's friend. So your best customer, for example, is another inverted version of an anomaly of fraud in terms of signal signatures. But fundamentally, understanding at scale the value of what we call AML model consolidation is what that's all about. The second idea, and we'll kind of zoom through these relatively quickly, is this idea of yield optimization. Everybody always wants to make more with less. They want to make more money. They want to make more value for their shareholders and so on. The yield optimization use case is very interesting. Folks talked about a great local AI startup, Flatiron Health, which dealt with health crisis. The food optimization issues deal with food crisis. There are 2 billion people coming to this earth over the next 10, 15 years, and there's a real problem to kind of feed them. A very fundamental need. So we're helping the food producers actually get more from in essence, commodity inputs, again, to the tune of a very, very, very large amount of money. And then last but not least, this idea of form robotics or document robotics. Believe it or not, there's still a lot of business that occurs on documents today. And sometimes these documents are documents of images, and sometimes these documents are documents of PDFs, and all the other wonderful things that we've all done over our professional lives that, good, bad, or ugly, our children will continue to do. So the idea behind this is how do we automate that so that life becomes easier and you save money. Today, market cost for processing document is somewhere in order of $5 to $8 per document, sometimes per page of a document, and we're able to reduce those costs by up to 75%. So it's just a little bit of context of kind of what's there and how it works. So we'll perhaps organize around these 4 groups that you heard, if you heard earlier presentations, and presentations by some of our wonderful kind of technology brethren, in terms of what necessary things there are to drive. They call it AI journey. Actually, we don't like journeys, we like cycles. Raise your hand if you like revenue cycle. That's how we get paid, right? That's a big deal. So it's all about revenue cycles. It's all about decision cycles, which is probably the most important, valuable things that we can drive. And the 4 buckets that are most valuable in the decision cycles from our perspective is the ability to manage the data. And you heard our, again, colleagues over at Oracle and in Stream 8 talk about having smart data and actionable data. But the ability to manage whatever data, whatever unwashed data you may have is a very, very, very big deal, including social data that's out there that your grandmother's database just can't handle anymore, right? The ability to learn, the ability to decide, but last but not least, the ability to audit. When we actually make a decision, why do we do that? What's the decision provenance? What's the value behind it? What does that all mean? So those are the 4 buckets that we kind of organize around all the things that we think about. And just very briefly, the pictures of financial crimes for anomaly detection says, creates a lot of value. One thing that we want to point out about this is that for this particular project with a major top 5 worldwide bank, we actually were able to drive for the entire infrastructure purchase through the savings of automation, which for a lot of business people is a huge value. So ROI is a big deal for us, and explaining the business case, proving out our ROI to the tune of 6, 7, 8 figures is a big deal for us. The next use case, very, very briefly, is food intelligence, as we've mentioned before. Again, being more efficient with food and driving much better decisions from disparate, unconnected data lakes, where today most of the data that was used to make the decision was in a separate silo, but we're able to link it together for a common decision backframe and actually drive real value. Then last but not least, as we talked about before, this idea of document robotics, where we can reduce the cost of processing each document for the specified field and learn that kind of in real time and in a continuous manner in a sophisticated way. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to quickly look at additional things that we kind of talked about. So the first bucket is just what we call FatBrain flow. That's how we connect to existing data. And the easy way to realize this is there's a piece of open source technology called Airflow. We try to use as much open source as possibly available. And this allows you to turn all of your decision-making processes in an automated, they call it DAG or a dashboard, in an automated flow so that it gives you the value of serverless architecture wherever you run it, whether you run it in the cloud or anywhere. That's kind of the big deal here. So any task that's manual, and anybody who's ever run operations understands this, could then be automated with this kind of flow connectors and flow scheduling. The next part has to do with what we call automated learning. Notice this is a way to learn where learning occurs in a unaided way, and the learning occurs in a common backplane across numbers, video, text, graph data, who talked to whom or who bought what product, any of those kind of things. Again, set up in such a way that the entire space is able to be kind of understood and displayed in a methodical way. The special piece of technology right in the middle, if you see kind of the 3 rows up there, the middle row deals with something called embeddings. If you've never heard of embeddings, just take a look at it. It's a very interesting idea of extracting the essence, the hidden essence of data from lots and lots and lots of columns into a mathematical vector. So if you haven't heard about it, check it out. But we use this technology called the embeddings technology or vector technology. If anybody's used Google Search or Google Translate, this has been kind of industrialized and weaponized really there. But same tech, if you will. The next kind of part has to do with this idea of deciding, and everybody's familiar with that from perspective of kind of how that works. This is where imputations occur. This is where the decisions are made, and recommendations and all those kind of things. The big deal about what we do is we take all decisions that people make and actually use it to turbocharge other values that a company could bring to it. So you can actually teach AI. It's not a one-way street. It's kind of a two-way street to do that. And that's a little bit about that. So I think I'm probably running close to my time. I'll just give one last part, and then we're over at the booth S30, so you guys can come by and get a lot deeper explanation for all this. But the idea of explainability and auditability and transparency is huge. You'll hear everybody say it. Not everybody can do it, especially in a cycle. So come see us and come understand how that works and how that can be deployed for you. So thank you very, very much.